Okay, students, today I am going to take a class on occipito-posterior position. So what do we want to learn about, what do you want to learn about occipito-posterior position? First, we need to know the definition of occipito-posterior. Which position in vertex do we call as occipito-posterior position? What is the incidence of occipito-posterior? What are the causes which lead to such position? And how do we diagnose it? What is the mechanism of labor in occipito-posterior? And how do you manage it? And in case any complication like arrested occipito-posterior or deep transverse arrest occurs, how do you deal with it? So these are all we have to know in occipito-posterior position. So in vertex position, when the occiput is placed directly, see, let's see this. This is the pelvis, okay, maternal pelvis. So this is the normal anatomical position. It is tilted like this forward, and this is the fetal skull. So normal vertex position, this occiput. See, this is, yes. What is occiput, what is sinciput, and see, this position from, this is called the anterior fontanelle, and this is the posterior fontanelle. Anterior fontanelle is diamond in shape, and this is the sagittal suture. These are the coronal sutures, and this anterior one, this is the frontal suture, separating the two frontal bones. This is the coronal suture, which separates the parietal and the frontal bone. And this is the sagittal suture, which separates the two parietal bones. So this is called the anterior fontanelle, which is diamond in shape. And see, in the posterior side, this fontanelle, which is triangular in shape, is called the posterior fontanelle, and it is bounded by anterior, in the upper portion it is bounded by the sagittal suture, and on either side it is bounded by, these are the lambdoid sutures. So this is the posterior fontanelle. Okay, now this portion is called the sinciput. Between the anterior fontanelle and till the root of the nose, this portion is the sinciput. This between anterior and posterior, this is the vertex, and behind the posterior fontanelle up to the nape of the neck, it is called occiput. Okay, this portion is called the occiput. So now when we talk of vertex position, we are going to talk about occiput, which is placed behind the symphysis pubis in normal occipito-anterior position. But what happens, see, in the normal vertex position, this is the pelvis. So this occiput, this part is placed anteriorly like this, behind the sinciput. See, this occiput is anteriorly placed like this, behind the symphysis pubis. But what happens in occipito-posterior position? This portion occiput is placed over the sacroiliac joint. See, this is the sacroiliac joint. This is the sacroiliac joint. It is directly placed like this, obliquely over the sacroiliac joint, or directly over the sacrum like this. So when the occiput is placed posteriorly directly over the sacroiliac joint or over the sacrum, it is called occipito-posterior position. So there are two positions in occipito-posterior, which is right occipito-posterior. Depending on the placement of the occiput, if occiput is placed on the right sacroiliac joint, the right or left sacroiliac joint corresponds to the maternal side, not, okay, how the mother is. Depending on the mother's right or left sacroiliac joint, we determine whether it is right occipito-posterior or left occipito-posterior. When this occiput is placed like this, obliquely over the right sacroiliac joint, then, sorry, this is the left sacroiliac joint, then we call it as left occipito-posterior. When it is placed like this over the right sacroiliac joint, we call it as right occipito-posterior position. Or when it is placed directly like this, anteroposteriorly and directly over the sacrum, we call this as direct occipito-posterior position. In 90%, what happens when it is placed like that? 90% of the cases, what happens? It normally rotates into occipito-anterior position as soon as the labor starts. And it is the most common position in which type of pelvis? It is most common in anthropoid pelvis. In next class, I will be talking about the various types of pelvis, then you will understand. The most common is anthropoid pelvis. There are three types of pelvis. One is gynecoid, anthropoid, and android pelvis. So it is more common in anthropoid pelvis. And as posterior position, because in this posterior position, it will lead to dystocia of labor, and because of that, it is classified under malpresentation. Otherwise, it is a type of vertex presentation and not a malpresentation. But since it causes dystocia also, it is classified under malpresentations. Now, see, this is how the posterior part occiput is placed on the right sacroiliac joint, right occipito-posterior, and this is where the left occiput lies on the left sacroiliac joint, left occipito-posterior position. Next, at the onset of labor, what is the incidence of this? In all cases, at the onset, it appears in 10% of all vertex presentations. And it is more common during late pregnancy and less during second stage of labor. More common during late pregnancy, but what happens as soon as labor starts? Because of the contraction of the uterus and flexion of the head, it is corrected and it becomes normal occipito-anterior. It comes under it becomes normal occipito-anterior position. But during late pregnancy, they can be occipito-posterior position, and the incidence is 10% of all positions are occipito-posterior. But labor may not be as such. Right occipito-posterior is more common than left occipito-posterior because on the left side there is a sigmoid colon, and also during labor, during pregnancy there is dextrorotation of uterus. Uterus rotates to the right side because on the left side there is sigmoid colon. So these two factors will make right occipito-posterior more common presentation than the left occipito-posterior. So what are the causes or what are the factors which are responsible for occipito-posterior position? Which is the shape of the inlet. If the shape of the inlet is either android or an anthropoid, then it is 50% more common in such type of pelvis, whether if the pelvis is android or anthropoid pelvis. I'll discuss what is android and what is anthropoid pelvis, where all the diameters of the pelvic inlet, outlet, and this is the pelvic, this is the inlet, this is the cavity, and this portion is the outlet, where all the diameters of the pelvic inlet, cavity, and the outlet are reduced. So in android pelvis, it is almost like oval shaped, and anthropoid pelvis, it is slightly oval, and gynecoid pelvis, it is like this. This is the transverse diameter of the pelvic inlet. So this transverse diameter is reduced in both of these pelvises. In such pelvis, this occipito-posterior position is more common because when the diameter of this is reduced, then the engaging diameter will also become, engaging diameter will become occipitofrontal or suboccipitofrontal because of deflection of the head. So deflection of the head will cause those two diameters to engage. And what are the other factors which cause deflection of the head? They are high pelvic inclination. When the pelvis is highly inclined, that is the fifth lumbar vertebrae becomes sacralized. That is, it is included in the sacral, this thing, then pelvis is highly inclined. Even in such positions, occipito-posterior is more common. And when placenta is attached on the anterior wall of the uterus, then if the placenta is attached on the anterior wall of the uterus, what happens? There is no position for the space for the fetal head when it engages is reduced. So it engages in the occipito-posterior position. And even in primary brachycephaly. And what are the uterine factors which will lead to this? Abnormal uterine contractions. When the uterine contractions, usually what happens, even though it is in 10% of the cases, the head engages in occipito-posterior because of good uterine contractions and adequate pelvis, what happens? The head usually rotates and baby usually delivers as occipito-anterior. But when there is abnormal uterine contractions, then it will keep the head in the deflexed position only. So when the head is deflexed, usually it continues to be in occipito-posterior. So how will you diagnose when you examine a patient, how will you tell whether it is occipito-anterior or occipito-posterior position? So when you examine a patient, so when you see the shape of the uterus, that is on abdominal inspection, the abdomen below the umbilicus is usually flat when the occiput is placed posteriorly over the sacrum. So it looks flat. See, whereas this curve is not flat when the occiput is placed anteriorly. So in this position, the abdomen looks flat below the umbilicus, and on palpation in umbilical grip, what is umbilical grip? Where you place both the hands on the lateral side and feel for the back and the limbs of the baby. So when you do an umbilical grip, the fetal limbs are felt near the midline or in either of the flanks, and the fetal back is far away from the midline or on the flank. Fetal back is usually felt on the in the flanks in case of occipito-posterior position. See, this is the posterior position of the vertex. This is the anterior position below the umbilicus. This is, since occiput is anterior, this is not flat, and back is on the anterior sides. What happens in occipito-posterior? Occiput is placed behind. So this looks flat because this part is occupied by the amniotic fluid. This becomes flat, and since back is placed behind in the midline, what do you feel? You feel the fetal limbs in the midline, and fetal back is far away, placed in the flanks. Because of it, what happens? The fetal heart sound is also heard either in the flank or cannot be heard. So in the pelvic grip is, you have to say with the 4 fingers and thumb, that is the pelvic grip. When the pelvic grip, and with the 2 hands when you place on the lower part of the uterus. So in the pelvic grip, what do you see? That head is not engaged and sinciput is not felt prominently. What is the sinciput? This in the fetal skull between the anterior fontanelle, this part is the sinciput. This is not felt prominently and head remains still unengaged because of deflection. And on auscultation, the fetal heart sounds are either heard in the flank or they are very difficult to locate. And in case of direct occipito-posterior, they can be heard in the midline. So when we do an examination, then diagnosis is first by inspection of the abdomen, next by vaginal examination. What do we see when you do a vaginal examination? In early labor, what happens? There is elongation of the bag of membranes, and these bag of membranes, they rupture very easily when you do a vaginal examination. And what is the sagittal suture? I have shown you the part between this anterior and the posterior fontanelle. This suture which separates the 2 parietal bones is the sagittal suture. So this suture will occupy any of the oblique pelvic diameters. See, the fetal head is like this. Okay, see, the fetal head is like this. So when you do a vaginal examination, what do you feel? The sagittal suture like this. Okay, when you do vaginal examination, this is how you will feel the sagittal suture. And this sagittal suture, usually because the head engages in the oblique pelvic diameters, this sagittal suture you will feel either in this oblique diameter or this oblique diameter, depending on right or left occipito-posterior positions. And posterior fontanelle is near the sacroiliac joint. See, this is the symphysis pubis, okay? So this is the anterior and this is the posterior fontanelle. So when the head is in the oblique diameter, so which is the fontanelle which is mostly easily palpable? When you do a pelvic examination, the anterior fontanelle, right? Because the posterior fontanelle is near the sacroiliac joint, this posterior. So anterior fontanelle is usually felt in a deflexed head when you do a pelvic examination. So this is how it is in the occipito-posterior deflexed head. It is this is the occipito-anterior position in a well-flexed head where you feel the posterior fontanelle easily, but in a deflexed head where, and with occiput posterior, when you do a pelvic examination, you feel the anterior fontanelle easily. So, in late labor, what happens? We have seen during the first stage of labor, there is easily bags of membranes are easily ruptured, and when you do a pelvic assessment, you will know the sagittal suture whether it is in oblique position and which fontanelle is usually felt easily. And in late labor, what happens? Because of this position, there is formation of caput. I'll tell you how caput forms. There is formation of caput, and since caput is formed, it is very difficult to feel the anterior fontanelle. Then how do you know that? How do you locate the occiput? We locate by means of ear, the pinna of the ear, which is not foldable easily. By the direction of the pinna of the ear, this pinna will point towards the occiput. So because of that, we can know where the occiput is. And another method is by radiological imaging, where we can assess the descent of the fetus, the attitude of the head, and the relation of the fetus to all the pelvic walls. And now we will see mechanism of labor. So in normal occipito-anterior position or occipito-lateral position, so what is the normal mechanism of labor? Normal is, these are all called the cardinal movements of labor. So each and every presentation, you have to know all the cardinal movements. First is engagement, then is flexion, then internal rotation, next is crowning, delivery of the head by extension, destitution, external rotation, and delivery of shoulders and trunk. These are the cardinal movements, and they occur in the same manner in every presentation. So in normal occipito-anterior or occipito-lateral position, so how does the head engage? It engages in the available transverse diameter. This is the transverse diameter of the inlet. So head usually engages like, if it is occipito-lateral, then the engaging diameter will be suboccipito. This is called the bregma. So suboccipito-bregmatic. This is the engaging suboccipito-bregmatic. Okay. See, from below this is suboccipito. This is the suboccipito-bregmatic diameter, which I am holding. Okay, from the anterior fontanelle to the below the occiput. This is the suboccipito-bregmatic diameter. So usually in occipito-anterior, the head will engage like this. In suboccipito-bregmatic, either like this, laterally, occipito-lateral. This is the occipito-lateral. This is the occipito-lateral position. This is when this occiput is behind the symphysis pubis. This is occipito-anterior. So this is occipito-lateral and this is occipito-anterior position. So usually the head will engage like this because the available transverse diameter is the longest in the normal gynecoid pelvis. So head engages in the available transverse diameter of the inlet always, and the engaging diameter of the head is suboccipito-bregmatic, which I have shown you. From this is the anterior fontanelle. So this to this is the suboccipito-bregmatic diameter. So this will either or suboccipito-frontal. This is the frontal part, suboccipito-frontal, which is 10 centimeters, or suboccipito-bregmatic, which is 9.5 centimeters. Normal occipito-anterior head will engage in this diameter. So next engagement is over. Next, with increasing flexion with because of good uterine contractions and adequate pelvis, head will usually flex inwards like this. Head will flex so that the posterior fontanelle becomes more prominent. When you do a vaginal examination, it will flex like this and it will descend. And once it reaches the pelvic floor, that is it reaches the level of the, these are the ischial spines. Once it reaches the level of the ischial spines, so what happens? There is internal rotation. So in normal occipito-anterior, what happens? Since the fetal head is either occipito-lateral like this or occipito-anterior, internal rotation will occur. That is, the head rotates so that occiput is behind the symphysis pubis. So this pelvic inlet is divided into, total is 8 quadrants. So from here to here, this is the first quadrant, this is the second, this till here it is the third, and this last part is the fourth quadrant. So total 8 parts. So when it is in lateral position like this, it will move. How will the occiput move? When it is in lateral position to this anteriorly and then behind the occiput. So it moves through 2/8 of the circle. This entire thing is one circle. So it is divided into 8 parts. So when the head is like this, it is to bring the occiput behind the symphysis pubis. It is moving to 2/8 of the circle from here to here and then behind the symphysis pubis. So 2/8 of the circle. But when it is anterior, it moves through only, when it is here, it moves through only 1/8 of the circle to come behind the symphysis pubis. From here to here, only 1/8 of the circle it moves. That is called internal rotation, to bring the occiput behind the symphysis pubis. That movement is called internal rotation. So once the internal rotation occurs, next is crowning. What is crowning? When the largest transverse diameter of the skull, it stretches the vulval outlet. That is, what reaches the largest transverse diameter? This part. Or what is this diameter? This is the biparietal diameter. When this part stretches the pelvic out, that is the vulval opening, it is called crowning. And after that, how does the delivery of the baby occurs? Once crowning occurs, by extension. So how will the baby deliver? Like this. It will start extending, comes out, and then next is restitution. See, this is how till here it will move, and then to the pelvic outlet like this. The baby will extend like this and the head is born. I'll show you the video, you will understand better. So that is, then next movement after that is restitution, and after that is external rotation. Restitution always occurs in the direction opposite to that. You have to remember that restitution always occurs in the direction opposite to internal rotation, and external rotation also occurs in the same direction as restitution. And then delivery of the shoulders and trunk will take place by lateral flexion. So this is what happens in normal occipito-anterior. So now we will see what happens in occipito-posterior position. What happens? Engagement. How does it engage? It engages in, what are the engaging diameters? So we will see this. So when it is in favorable position, the engaging diameter is oblique diameter, which is occipitofrontal 11.5 centimeters, or suboccipitofrontal, which is 10 centimeters. Occipitofrontal is, this is the occiput. So this is the frontal. This part is the occipitofrontal diameter. This part. So this is occipitofrontal is 11.5 centimeters. Or from below this suboccipito, this is the occiput, this prominent bone, and below that this is suboccipitofrontal, which this diameter is 10 centimeters. So engagement will occur either this like this, occipitofrontal, or suboccipitofrontal diameter, which is 10 centimeters. So since the engaging diameter is big, engagement is usually delayed in case of occipito-posterior position. And once the head engages with good uterine contractions, there is flexion of the head. The head will flex like this, inwards. the head will flex and it will reaches the pelvic floor. This is the pelvic floor. This part is the pelvic floor. So it will flex and reaches the pelvic floor. Once it reaches the pelvic floor, there is internal rotation. So this occiput is behind. Okay. This occiput is behind in what? In oblique position. So to reach behind the symphysis pubis, it has to rotate through like this to reach behind the symphysis pubis. For this occiput to be behind the symphysis pubis. So it is rotating from oblique to behind the symphysis pubis through how much of the circle? 3/8 of a circle. So is it actually in this oblique diameter? So from there to this one transverse diameter, and from there to here to here. So this one part, this is the second part, and this is the third part, this part. So it is moving through 3/8 of the circle to lie behind the symphysis pubis. So since neck cannot sustain such an amount of torsion, what happens? Even the anterior shoulders will rotate. Anterior shoulders which are posterior will rotate from here, from this position to lateral to transverse, and then to this oblique diameter. So they are rotating through 2/8 of a circle, anterior shoulders. So how much of torsion still the neck is left with? 1/8 of a circle, and even the anterior shoulders are left with 1/8 of a circle. So they occupy, the anterior shoulders will now be occupying the oblique diameter of the inlet. So rotation, this is how when the occiput is here, it is rotating from here to transverse to here to here. So what, how much? To 3/8 of a circle it is rotating. So next, and then after rotation what will happen? Because after internal rotation there is crowning and birth of the head. After head what happens? The next movement is destitution. Destitution is, there is untwisting of the neck. Neck has undergone a torsion of 1/8 of a circle. So the neck, to untwist itself, it will move in the direction in which, in the direction opposite to that of internal rotation. So neck will move like this through 1/8 of the circle. From here to here in the opposite direction of that of internal rotation. And next is external rotation will occur in the same direction as that of a neck through another 1/8 of the circle, so that the head will lie transversely once it comes out, and shoulders will, this movement will cause the shoulders to come into the anteroposterior diameter. So shoulders will come into this anteroposterior diameter, and then next birth of the shoulders will take place. So further descent and delivery of the head will occur same as to that of the occipito-anterior. Restitution occurs through 1/8 of the circle in the opposite direction of the internal rotation. External rotation occurs to 1/8 of the circle in the same direction as restitution, and shoulders rotate from oblique diameter to anteroposterior diameter, and birth of the shoulders and trunk will take place as that of in occipito-anterior position. So what happens when the circumstances are not favorable? So in complete forward rotation, what will happen? So this is your pelvis. This is the occipito-posterior position. So usually this will be rotating, coming to lie behind the symphysis pubis like this, and then delivery will occur. So what happens in unfavorable positions? What will happen? The occiput from here, it will undergo only short rotation to lie like this. That is in android or anthropoid pelvis, where the space is not adequate, it will lie like this in the transverse diameter of the inlet. And after that, no movement will take place. From this oblique posterior position, it has moved only 1/8 of the circle to lie in the transverse position. And after that, further rotation will not take place, and the head is arrested in that position. And this sagittal suture will lie, this is the sagittal suture, this will lie transversely in the pelvic inlet like this, in the transverse bispinous diameter of the inlet. This are the ischial spines. So this sagittal suture will be lying like this, transversely. Okay. These are the spines. These both prominent things are the ischial spines. So at the level of the spines, it will lie transversely, this sagittal suture, and no further movement will occur. Then that is called deep transverse arrest. What is it called? Deep transverse arrest. Further anterior rotation will not take place. So this is one, this is a mal rotation. So this is the symphysis pubis. Here you can see this is the symphysis pubis, and this is the right sacroiliac joint or right sacroiliac joint, where this is the sagittal suture which is lying in the oblique diameter. So from this position, when the conditions are favorable, what happens? This will rotate this entire area. So from here to here, transverse position, next to this position, and this. So it is rotating to 3/8 of a circle to lie and behind the symphysis pubis, and then delivery will occur as that of occipito-anterior position. This rotation is called long anterior rotation, rotating through 3/8 of a circle. So what happens if the circumstances are not favorable? What happens in that? This will rotate through only 1/8 of a circle from this position to the transverse position like this. This is called short anterior rotation to 1/8 of a circle. And in this position, there is arrest. So this is called deep transverse arrest. This is a type of mal rotation, this short anterior rotation. And what happens when there is no rotation at all? That is, the sagittal suture will lie in the oblique diameter and head will not rotate any further. This is called non-rotation. And what is this? This is short posterior rotation. Short posterior rotation is when the head or the sagittal suture from oblique diameter will rotate posteriorly, so that this occiput will lie directly over the sacrum. This is called short posterior rotation. Like this, it will lie posteriorly over the sacrum. It is called short posterior rotation. And what happens when there is short posterior rotation? If the pelvis is adequate and there are good contractions and deflection of the head, in good flexion of the head, it will deliver as face to pubis. What is face to pubis? That means, how does the baby deliver normally? Where the occiput lies under the symphysis pubis, okay? Like this, right? The head occiput is like this, behind the symphysis pubis. What happens in face to pubis delivery? This occiput lies over the sacrum and this nose hinges under the symphysis pubis, and baby will deliver as like this. Face will be born. After that, the nose will hinge under the symphysis pubis instead of the occiput, and delivery will happen. That is called face to pubis delivery. So, see, we have seen non-rotation because of deflection of the head, both synciput and the occiput. What happens in a well-flexed head? The occiput will reach the pelvic floor first and internal rotation will occur. But this synciput and occiput, when both of them, they reach the pelvic floor first, the rotation is arrested because the largest available diameter is occupying the pelvic floor, which is occipitofrontal, 11.5 centimeters. So when such a large diameter is occupying the pelvic floor, then no rotation will be possible. Then it is called non-rotation. So this is called oblique transverse, oblique posterior arrest. And in mal rotation, which is extreme deflection, the synciput. So when these both are touching the pelvic floor first, non-rotation occurs. What happens when the synciput touches the pelvic floor first? It touches, then it will rotate posteriorly through short 1/8 of the circle posteriorly. When this touches, then this will rotate from the oblique to like this. And occiput will be placed under the sacrum, and this will be in this occipito-posterior position only. So this is called persistent occipito-posterior position. Now let's see, how do we deliver a person when there is persistent occipito-posterior position. Persistent occipito-posterior is when the occiput is placed directly over the sacrum like this. It is called persistent occipito-posterior position. So under favorable circumstances, when there is an average sized baby with good uterine contractions and adequate pelvis, delivery will occur as face to pubis. So this is the pelvis. This is the face of the baby. So the nose will hinge under the symphysis pubis. This is, see, this nose will hinge under the symphysis pubis. Flexion will occur and delivery will happen like this by extension. Delivery of the head by extension. Like this, it will extend and baby will be delivered. Then that kind of a delivery is face to pubis delivery, where the face is upwards. And in case if there are unfavorable circumstances like the pelvis is not adequate, uterine contractions are not good, then there occurs occipitosacral arrest. Then there is no delivery is possible, arrest will occur causing occipitosacral arrest. So how do you deliver? There is further descent till the root of the nose is under the symphysis pubis. Then flexion will occur and there is birth of the head by extension. First brow is born. So this is the brow. When root, then this nose hinges under the symphysis pubis. Delivery is by extension of the head. So head will extend like this. First, which part is born? The brow, next vertex, and then the occiput, and then finally the face is born. So it is born like this. Then once it is born, then restitution will occur in the direction opposite to the internal rotation through 1/8 of a circle. Then external rotation to 1/8, further 1/8 in the same direction as restitution. And because of this restitution and external rotation, the shoulders are rotated into the AP diameter from the oblique diameter, and then they are born by delivery of the bilateral flexion. Shoulders are born. So this is how you can go through in your textbook how the delivery will occur in favorable and unfavorable circumstances. Now, course of labor. What does happen in occipito-posterior position? First, engagement. Engagement is usually delayed because of deflection of the head, because the driving forces is transmitted through the fetus is not in alignment with the axis of the inlet. So because of this, since the diameter of engagement is bigger, that is either 10 centimeters in suboccipitofrontal or 11.5 in occipitofrontal, it is delayed. Then membranes. Since the deflexed head will not fit the lower uterine segment, the ball valve action which is present during the uterine contractions is lost. Because of this, there is early rupture of membranes with drainage of LICAR when you do a vaginal examination. And also because the ill-fitting fetal head to the lower segment, there is no stimulus for uterine contractions. Because of this, there is no uterine action. Or it is either abnormal or there is no uterine action. This will lead to slow dilatation of the cervix. And pressure on the rectum by the wide occiput will cause premature bearing down by the mother, leading to maternal exhaustion, and this will lead to prolonged first stage of labor. Next, during the second stage, what will happen? Second stage is also delayed because long internal rotation to 3/8 of a circle has to take place, or sometimes malrotation or non-rotation can occur where leading to arrest of the head. So it is often delayed, second stage. And if left uncared for, it will lead to obstructed labor. So third stage, there is increased incidence of PPH because the longest diameter is stretching the vulval outlet. There is a trauma to the genital tract and increased incidence of PPH. So how do you deliver? Mode of delivery is either long anterior rotation to occiput will take place to 3/8 of the circle and it will deliver spontaneous or by assisted vaginal delivery, or short posterior rotation into the persistent occipito-posterior position, and it can also be delivered either by assisted vaginal delivery or spontaneous delivery as face to pubis. And in such position, there is more chance of injuries. And in case where there is no non-rotation or short rotation, short anterior rotation with deep transverse arrest or non-rotation with oblique arrest, then vaginal delivery is unlikely. So how do you manage labor? You have to manage labor by early diagnosis, because this keeps on giving you hints. So you have to be vigilant and catch the hints. The labor will be giving you hints. So when you chart the labor on a partogram, you will come to know. So you have to diagnose early. Then you have to do strict vigilance of the labor with watchful expectancy. You have to look for descent, anterior rotation of the occiput. And when you think it is necessary, you have to interfere and take her up for a cesarean rather than leaving like that. So diagnosis, you have to see by abdominal examination and vaginal examination we have seen. And pelvic assessment we have to do, it is mandatory. So how do you do vaginal delivery? What are the things you need to take care of when you do doing a vaginal delivery for such patient? During the first stage, as it is prolonged, you need to start an IV drip with RL, and the progress of labor should be judged. We have to look for the descent, where the back and anterior shoulders are, whether there is, how is the head flexed, whether the head is in flexion or deflection, the position of the sagittal suture, and you have to assess the cervical dilatation. In case there is a weak pain, persistent deflection and wrong rotation of the occiput, we can start oxytocin infusion, because with increasing pains, the head might get corrected for augmentation of labor. During the second stage, mostly anterior rotation of the occiput will occur. It will either deliver by spontaneously or assisted forceps or ventouse. In case there is non-rotation or malrotation as in occipitosacral position, spontaneous delivery as face to pubis might occur, and proper conduction of delivery with liberal, in case there is a face to pubis delivery, we have to give a liberal episiotomy to prevent any perineal tears. And third stage, since it is prolonged and more chances of PPH, it can be prevented by giving intravenous ergometrin 0.25 milligrams prophylactically with the delivery of the anterior shoulder, and inspect the genital tract later for any injuries. So in case of any problem, then you have to resort to immediate cesarean section. So what happens when the baby is arrested in occipito-posterior? We have to at least wait for 1.5 hours to 1 hour when there are good uterine contractions, and then we have to assess the labor. So interference should be done, timely interference is needed. You have to assess the case. What you have to see when you're doing an assessment, we have to first see per abdominal, what is the size of the baby, whether the head is engaged, what is the amount of liquor, and fetal heart rate. Next, on vaginal examination, you need to look for where the station of head is, the position of the sagittal suture, the occiput, the degree of flexion or deflection, whether there is any molding in caput formation. You have to look for all these things on vaginal examination. And pelvic assessment, on pelvic assessment, you will get to know what is the level of obstruction. So when there is arrest in occipito-transverse position or oblique occipito-posterior, previously what they used to do, they used to either manual rotation followed by forceps application, where you introduce your hand and manually rotate the baby, and then you apply forceps and deliver the baby, or forceps rotation and extraction they used to do with Keelan's forceps. Nowadays, we are not doing any of these methods. We are directly resorting to cesarean section. And craniotomy is done if the baby is dead. So occipitosacral arrest. Occipitosacral arrest is when the arrest occurs in the oblique diameter. It is called occipitosacral arrest. If the head is engaged and occiput descends below the level of ischial spines, then you can apply forceps and do a face to pubis delivery. If the level remains above the ischial spines, we go for cesarean. Nowadays, even in the above, if there is an arrest, in both the conditions, we are going for cesareans. And deep transverse arrest. What is deep transverse arrest? I told you, when short anterior rotation occurs, where the arrest occurs in the lateral transverse position of the output, like this. If the arrest occurs like this, it is deep transverse arrest, where further there is no progress in labor despite half an hour to full hour of waiting for the delivery. Because we have to assess when there are good uterine contractions and full cervical dilatation. Even after that also the baby is not delivered, then you have to assess and see the degree of flexion where the obstruction has occurred, the level of obstruction. So what happens when such deep transverse arrest occurs? What do you have to do? The end result of incomplete anterior rotation, this occurs because of short anterior rotation or non-rotation. Primarily in occipito-transverse position, the head will engage in that position and remains in that position. So there occurs a deep transverse arrest. And what are the causes of this? Can be either because of deflection of the head, pelvic inadequacy, weak uterine contractions, or lack pelvic floor muscles. So then you have to diagnose, when you diagnose for such deep transverse arrest, you have to look whether the head is engaged or not, where there is the sagittal suture located. You have to look for anterior fontanelle, and how is the pelvis. And how do you manage such? Vaginal delivery is, if you find that pelvis is adequate and uterine contractions are good, then you can do vaginal delivery by applying ventouse or manual rotation with forceps application, or forceps rotation and forceps delivery. And forceps rotation and delivery are done by Keyland. Nowadays, Keyland is outdated and we are not using Keyland anymore. The above method should be done only by skilled obstetricians. Otherwise, if the obstetrician is not well versed in the above methods, it is better to go for cesarean section. And vaginal delivery is not found safe, then we directly do a cesarean. So how do you do manual rotation? Manual rotation this is there in your textbook. You can just go through this. Now we will watch a video of occipito-posterior position.
Hello friends, in this video I will discuss how mechanism takes place in the mal position. As I told previously, vertex takes 8 position on the pelvic brim and the normal position is occipito-anterior. And the mal position means the wrong position, and there are the 3. This position is termed as right occipito-posterior. Right means the maternal aspect of the pelvis, and the occiput lies on the right side of sacroiliac joint, and this is the 3rd position on the vertex. The 4th position is LOP, that is left occipito-posterior, and the occiput when directed towards the sacrum, this terms occipito-posterior or the direct occipito-posterior. So these are the 3 mal position: ROP, OP and LOP. So here in this lecture I will discuss the mechanism of ROP. Before I start with the cardinal movements, just have a look what are the basic conditions under which the fetus lies. The lie is longitudinal, presentation is cephalic, presenting part is vertex, attitude is deflection of head, denominator is occiput, and the position is ROP. First we'll see in 90% of favorable outcomes what all step occurs. So first is the engagement, and the engaging diameter of fetal head is occipito-frontal, that is about 11.5 centimeter, and it engages in the right oblique diameter of pelvic brim, and you know that is 12 centimeter. So engagement takes place. Then comes the descent, and the descent is the continuous phenomena which occurs throughout the labor, and it ends with the delivery of baby. After the descent, for the favorable outcome, it is necessary, that is good flexion occurs, and as the complete flexion of head occurs, it helps in the important cardinal movement, that is the internal rotation of head, and in this there is 3/8 of the rotation of head occurs, and it comes behind the symphysis pubis. As the neck cannot sustain such amount of torsion, so the shoulder also rotate 2/8 of the circle. So head rotate 3/8 of the circle, or you can say 135-degree angle, and the shoulders lies in the oblique diameter of pelvic brim. So these are lying in the right side. There is 1/8 of the twist is still left behind. After these all, the rest of the mechanism is same as an occipital anterior position. So after the internal rotation of head, that is a long rotation, next comes the crowning, in which the pi parietal diameter stretches the vulval outlet, and after that, as the contraction passes over, the head doesn't recede back into the uterine cavity. Next comes the extension of head. In that, the brow, the face and the chin is borne by the movement of extension. After the extension, there is restitution, which is in the opposite direction of internal rotation of head, and the torsion which was occur at the time of internal rotation is released now. After the restitution, there is internal rotation of shoulder. The shoulder, which are lying in the oblique diameter, rotate 1/8 of the circle and comes behind the symphysis pubis, and it accompanied with the external rotation of head. Now the head and the shoulders are in direct alignment. After that, with the further descent, the anterior shoulder sweeps the subpubic arc and the posterior shoulder escapes the perineum, and the rest of the body is borne by the lateral flexion. So these occurs in the favorable situation. In 90% of cases, the normal mechanism takes place. Next, in 10% unfavorable situation, there are 3 conditions occurs, and in first, that is incomplete forward rotation. Because of mild deflection, or you can say with a weak uterine contraction or the fault in the pelvic brim, this lead to incomplete or 1/8 of the rotation of occiput. So the sagittal sutures lies in the transverse and it get arrested in that position because of bispinous diameter in the outlet is less. So this arrest is called deep transverse arrest. The next condition is non-rotation, and this occurs because of the moderate deflection of head, in which the sinciput and the occiput touches the pelvic floor at the same time and there is no movement takes place. So it get arrested in that position and it is called oblique posterior arrest. And in third condition, there is malrotation, and it occurs because of the severe deflection of head. So the sinciput, which is the smaller in comparison to the occiput, will rotate and comes behind the symphysis pubis about 1/8 of the circle, and the occiput is directed toward the sacrum. So this position is occipitosacral arrest. In unfavorable situation, this position get arrested and there is no further mechanism takes place. But in favorable situation, there is phase 2 pubis delivery takes place, in which the root of the nose comes behind the symphysis pubis and further flexion takes place, and the brow, vertex and the occiput stretches the perineum, and the face is borne by the movement of extension. Then the twist which was occur is released now, so it is the restitution. Then comes the internal rotation of shoulder. Shoulder rotates 1/8 of the circle and comes behind the symphysis pubis. Externally, it is visible by the external rotation of head. The anterior shoulder sweeps the subpubic arc. Posterior shoulder sweeps the perineum, and the rest of the body is borne by lateral flexion. So here in this video, you have seen favorable and unfavorable outcome on occipito-posterior position.
Okay, so we have seen how the delivery occurs in occipito-posterior position. Okay, these methods, these are half hand and whole hand method, how you rotate the baby. So any questions, any doubts? Okay, then I am ending my session.